She's got millions of followers online and has earned millions of dollars as a popular streamer and OnlyFans content creator, which might be why intruders thought she was a perfect target until they were on the other side of her husband's gun.
Right here. It's in here.
I'm so sorry. Come on. Go.
I'm Elizabeth Millner for Law&Crime. She's known online as Amouranth and has amassed millions of followers across different platforms like OnlyFans, Kick, Twitter, Twitch. But those armed masked intruders you just saw there wanted more from her. She said they robbed her at gunpoint, even pistol whipped her, and she detailed the entire ordeal in a series of tweets. Kaitlyn Siracusa is so popular online, it's been estimated her net worth is around $20 to $25 million. For her millions of followers, you don't know her as Kaitlyn. You probably know her best as Amouranth. So you can imagine how shocking it was for her followers when they logged onto Twitter this past Sunday and saw tweets like, "I'm being too robbed gunpoint," or "I shot one of them. They wanted crypto," is what they were yelling. "They pulled me out of bed." Might be hard to understand, yes, but in a panic, it's understandable. Plus, pretty scary, right? Here's what police say happened. They were called out to a neighborhood in Northwest Houston about a home invasion / aggravated robbery. When police met with Kaitlyn, aka Amouranth, she told them that she was asleep at her home when 3 men broke in. According to police, those suspects broke in by shooting out the patio window and kicking in the bedroom door. And they were allegedly after one thing: her cryptocurrency account. Amouranth told police that they demanded access to that account, but they weren't able to get in. She said at some point during the robbery, she was pistol whipped, and not just once. If you're wondering why she chose to tweet through this robbery instead of call 911, well, there's a reason. She thought she was gonna die. In one of her tweets, she wrote, "Was at gunpoint. They gave me phone and said log in with gun to my head, and I tweeted because calling would be a death sentence." But there were more scary updates. She said she was covered in her own blood, beaten, and thought the entire invasion wasn't going to end. But robbing a popular streamer with surveillance cameras at her home, not a great idea, because guess what? They left behind evidence. In one of Amouranth's tweets, she said one of the intruders left a trail of blood behind, not because he cut himself in a scuffle, but because he was probably shot. It's unclear right now, but Amouranth posted her surveillance video that also had audio too.
Right here. It's in here.
I'm so sorry. Come on. Go.
What you didn't hear there was 3 gunshots go off. Police say during the incident, Amouranth led the suspects to the part of her home where her husband was at, knowing he had a gun. After the bullets were fired, probably striking one of them, the 3 men ran off. Eventually, police arrived and Amouranth was taken to the hospital. She is okay, but the suspects are still on the loose. But you know how Newton's third law goes? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction? Well, when Amouranth posted about her home invasion, lots were quick to either call it a hoax or ask if the home invasion was staged. From the photos she shared, though, it shows a broken door where the suspect shot at and kicked in, police cars surrounding her home, and likely thinking people wouldn't believe her in the first place, she posted a tweet where she said, "It's not a prank. Help." It's unclear who those 3 men were, how old they are, or if they were crazy fans or followers of hers. So for now, police are working the investigation, but we could learn more very soon. I'm joined now by retired NYPD detective and host of the Gold Shields podcast. That's Tom Smith. Tom, thank you so much for joining me. What's your reaction to this violent home invasion? These masked intruders allegedly pistol whipped Amouranth. They demanded her cryptocurrency, and then she caught the shocking shooting onto her surveillance video.
Yeah, it's shocking, but it's what's going on today, and that's the unfortunate, ramifications of this. When you're out, especially on social media, and you're out there in the public eye, it doesn't do you any favors to start bragging about how much money you have. That is a sure sign of what not to do, because of the availability of these bad guys to just track people down. It's not like the old days when you could just say something or post something and the technology wasn't really there to track you down. Today, it's with a click and you can find anyone and see where they are. And people of that, level and bragging about money or bragging about what they're doing or where they even are, can be very dangerous. And this is a perfect example of that.
And even, being a social media content creator, she was tweeting throughout this whole scary ordeal. She was saying things like, I too am being robbed at gunpoint, a trail of his blood along the way of my driveway. Forensic is testing it. She said that one of the intruders screamed, I got shot after. She said she wasn't even supposed to post the scene itself or the casings, which are supposed to be in evidence or anything like that. But just being so vocal through your job on social media, and then also how that kind of translates a little bit to what she had all went through. What is your just reaction to this influencer kind of tweeting throughout this ordeal?
Yeah, the tweeting part, if it's true of what she said, that she couldn't get and make a 911 call, so her best option that most people would see it would be to tweet something or to post something. And that's pretty brilliant under the circumstances, if that was her mindset and her plan. But you have to be a little bit, a little restricted in yourself with what you're going to release. The police probably weren't that happy that she released the security video because, like you said, it's evidence. And now, instead of holding it tight and possibly getting identification of the three people, now it's out there for the world already. So if they found her on social media, they already saw the video. So they know they're on video. So that hinders the investigation going forward. So I am sure she got told not to do it, but she went and did it, and I'm sure the police aren't too happy.
And talk to me about working an investigation like this. What are detectives going to be looking for after they get statements from the victim or even witnesses, and then even after seeing these tweets go out about the crime scene?
Yeah, you know what? You're going to kind of work backwards. You're going to look for additional videos of maybe other people's security cameras. If they have an identification of a car, they're going to track the car back as far as they can with, like I said, other surveillance videos on the street, rings on people's houses, whatever it might be, and try to track it to a starting point if possible. But then you're going to start looking for patterns. You're going to start looking for three-man assault teams and, three-man robbery patterns, whether it's home invasions or commercial robberies, whatever it might be. You're going to start to get in the weeds of what else have these three individuals have done. And looking by what they did, how they were dressed, this was not their first time. So it's a good shot that there are other robberies involving these three individuals. And you just start putting more and more cases together. And then, like you said, get it out in the public. I'm a firm believer in getting it out there as fast as you can with the information, because the public can be everywhere. The police can't. So someone's going to know them. Someone might recognize a car or the way they acted or whatever it might be, or even their voice. Like you stated, Elizabeth, he did say on the video, I'm shot. He said it 3 times. So that voice might even be a indicator to somebody else.
And I was going to ask, did you think that this was a well-organized and well-thought-out crime? I mean, they're in Texas, they're in Houston, and I would think that if you are going to be trying to invade someone's home, trying to rob somebody, you would think, there's a possibility somebody in that home may have a weapon, may try to shoot at me. Do you think that the intruders had really thought this through?
Well, they probably did to a point, but not thoroughly, which happens a lot. That is, one of the things that police hope, do happen, that they don't think everything through. She may have posted in the past that, her herself doesn't own a gun or doesn't believe in us. So they might have went under the assumption that let's get her because she's not going to have one, but disregarding who might be in the house as well. It's hard to do what they did with PIN numbers and going online and extracting money and all that. That takes a lot of time. And sometimes robbers, home invaders don't like that. So, they might have to plan this haul out completely of their best way to do this, but it's so dangerous what happened. And, being pistol whipped is so horrible. And what she had to go through with the terrorizing of her house and invasion of her house, gladly she's okay.
Yeah, we're glad as well too, because I can't even imagine how scary of an ordeal that must have been. And thank goodness that her husband was there as well too to kind of fend them off of her as well. In your opinion, it feels like we're seeing an increase in home invasions and robberies. We saw it with professional athletes last summer. We see it with celebrities all the time. Now we're seeing kind of this influx of content creators and influencers and their home being robbed or invaded and that type of sort. Do you think that, I want to go back to what you had said earlier, do you think that it's just easy for robbers to find them because they have name recognition and because, maybe reports came out about their earnings and they see, $80 million, $100 million, or however $1 million that these creators are earning? Do you think that robbers are just like, you know what, they have nothing to lose, why not give it a try and let's just go steal everything that they've worked so hard for?
Sure, because the payoff is enormous. When the old school robbers had to hide behind a tree or hide in an alley and wait for maybe that victim that might come along that might be a big payoff. Now you can really strategize who you're going after to where they live. When you have athletes, they have a set schedule. Every day during their season is exactly the same. So they know where they are, the times they are there. And you know what? When you're in your house, you can be the most vulnerable, even if it's at night and you're asleep, the shock of it. So the planning is much more extensive, these days with these home invasions and celebrities and athletes being targeted. It gets to a really scary situation. And that's why you're going to see these athletes and celebrities really ramp up their security measures, either around them or at their home.
And just going off of that, I also want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, just about their earnings altogether. And, some people may say that it is bragging. Then sometimes it is just like reports coming out about how much these OnlyFans creators or Twitch creators or influencers are making. And again, that ranges a lot of money. But in your opinion, is there anything that influencers, content creators can do to kind of protect themselves more from, their potential earnings, from them being a target of these types of crimes? Do you think that there's anything that they can do to kind of tighten up on just securing themselves more when it comes out to these reports about just how much they are really making?
Yeah, a lot of it is common sense, Elizabeth. That's all it is. Stick to what you're doing. Stick to your profile, your platform, your influential message that you're getting out there, and just stick to that. There's no reason to send your personal information to millions of people in one shot. With one little click, millions of people are getting your information. There's no reason for that. And it just boggles my mind why you wouldn't be more security conscious when you're at that level and when you have that much money. Why would you kind of bypass that and put it out there more instead of holding on tight to that, which can harm you, your family members that might live somewhere else, and be held in exchange for information about your money. I mean, it gets into a really dangerous situation when you just start putting everything about yourself out there.
And, I'm a huge reality TV star. And so, like, I see sometimes where you see the wealth just put out on display. And I've seen some stories or some episodes where, housewives, they're victims of home invasions and stuff like that as well, too. And from what they say, it's a very personal attack, it feels like, because obviously you're at your home. It's the safest place that you're supposed to be at. But as a former or as a retired NYPD detective who has had to go out on cases like this, what were you hearing from victims when they were also had their home invaded or they were burgled or they had their possessions robbed? What were they saying when you were speaking to them on the case?
Well, it's hard. Those are very hard interviews because when someone comes into your home and the shock of it, you get tunnel vision. So a lot of times we would show up and try to get information from people, and all they would keep saying, he had a big gun, because that's all they are focused on. And you can understand that because of just what's going on and the traumatic event that's taking place in your house and to you and maybe to your family members. So the other part is getting it over as quickly as possible. Give them what they want. Here, what do you want? Here you go. Just give it to them. Fighting is not going to work. You are not going to win that fight. This case, they got surprised by somebody, but a lot of times when we spoke to victims, they just gave everything up quick to get them out of the house when they don't have the means to protect themselves like she did with her husband in a different part of the house. But it is just a tremendously traumatic event that takes place during these home invasions, and so violent.
Yeah, and thankfully she's okay, and wishing her a speedy recovery as well too. Tom Smith, thank you so much for your insight into this case. I always appreciate your time. Before we sign you off though, how quickly do you think investigators will take in order to catch these bad guys?
It depends on the information that's put out there. Someone knows them. Me and you have said that so many times on other cases that we've talked about. Somebody knows these guys. And, do you want to get caught up with them, or do you want to, do the right thing and help out police? But someone's going to know them. So hopefully it's not too long where they have the availability to hurt somebody else.
Exactly. Tom Smith, again, thank you so much for your insight. I really appreciate your time today.
It's always a pleasure, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Houston PD is asking anyone with information to give them a call. Crime Stoppers is also offering a $5,000 reward for information in the case. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Millner.